About 15 minutes later, Cameron starts to become a bit more agitated. They're on a dirt road at this point, and every now and then they walk past crumbling structures of what used to be houses and trailers.
You think the cell service stopped working since you read about it?
I don't know. They said it'd be pretty sporadic.
Who said this exactly?
The paranormal forum peeps.
I hope they're trustworthy.
They are. Or at least, they have no reason to lie.
I think the paranormal gives people incentive to lie, especially if you're not gifted.
Sure. But we're talking about cell phone service, not ghosts.
Could also be a scheme by those crazy locals to lure their victims into town.
You're joking, but I know you're still worried about that. So I'll just point out that it's highly unlikely because that would leave too much of a paper trail.
I'm not that worried, especially now that we've made it this far and nothing.
Oh, shit.
What?
Damn it, I just had a bar for a split sec. The bear waves the phone around over his head, spinning in a slow circle.
What the hell, Dev? You scared me.
Sorry, babe. Anyway, I think it came from this direction. Dev indicates a rather large group of trees off to the side of the road that forms a bit of a miniature forest.
Of course. Why does it have to be the creepiest thing in sight?
I was going to say that tree coverage is famously where you have the best signal. You want to hang back while I check it out?
No.
Is that a question? Cameron doesn't respond, instead sliding his paw into the one Dev's offering, and they start to make their way through the sagebrush.
Oh God, imagine all the ticks we're picking up.
Don't worry, babe, I'll come through all your fur when we get out of here. Want me to carry you?
I'm fine.
Alright, just don't think about the tarantulas and scorpions.
So one of the things here that's kind of goofy is that, like, we know that there is, like, some woodland area in Echo, but it's really hard for me to imagine a desert with scorpions and tarantulas, and then also thick enough forest that you would be walking through it and getting, like,
some kind of woods
and like coverage. It's a very hard image to perceive. Granted, I guess if you're going towards the mountains, you're going to see more tree cover as you go up there.
I wonder if anyone's ever tried to map Echo. Like, try to make sense of it. You have the road that there's information here. Like, there's a road that leads up to Carl's house. Leo is next to Kudzu, which is near the train yard, but also behind Leo's house is the woods.
Yeah.
Which is cemented by, like, Chase's memory. Chase has that dream of, like, running out of the woods towards Leo's house from behind and getting tackled by some kind of creature and dying there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Rocky Mountain area too, I mean, obviously it's not 100% analogous to where Echo is, but the mountain range does have, like, lots of rock and, like, stone desert, but there are a lot of trees there too. It's just not woods like you would think of in the same way that you think of, like, NorCal redwood forests or, like, East Coast pine groves or anything like that. So it's just kind of interesting to try to imagine the geography of the town, especially if they're only like 5 miles from the central highway. I mean, maybe they're further from that now, but still a relatively close distance to, like, civilization.
Yeah. And then of course we're using the setting was originally set up by a series of, like, public domain liquefy filtered screenshots or something. So, like, you had some views that were these incredibly empty expanses of desert with just a road sticking out. Then you had the straight up, like, forest, like where the bird cage is. But then you have these brush areas akin to, like, where you find, like, where Chase and Kudzu go to take a picture of that, like, water spout, and where he finds Clint at some point are, like, much more coverage, but it's really hard to imagine the connective tissue between these places.
Yeah, definitely. I think about that too in like, there appears to be some like on location photography done for Echo in order to get those screenshots. I've mentioned it before off stream to you, but like that whole style of old school indie Japanese visual novel where the backgrounds are those like hyper sharpened, posturized, like liquefied filter affected screenshots or pictures. Uh, it has such an aesthetic to me that I love. And as much as I love the art for Arches so far, I do. It's hard to see Echo not in that sort of dilapidated, rundown, we're doing urban exploration and taking illicit photography that we'll put into our visual novel sort of aesthetic that Echo created. So
although even
it's
Echo wanders away from that before it finishes.
Yes, exactly.
Like the McSkinny routes and Route 65 are a lot more illustration, even in cases where they're illustrating scenes that were previously photos.
Yes,
but then not going
definitely.
back and turning them into illustrations in the previous routes and so on.
It's kind of neat too to see that though, because as you said, like these were pictures that were taken that were like backported into being a setting. And it gives the entire setting a really uncanny feeling because there isn't actually a cohesive sense of space. There's a lot of pictures that pass as maybe the same location, but like,
there's
internal
like
logic wise,
almost,
yeah, exactly. Like we have no sense of direction, basically. Like, for all we know, the two shots inside Brian's trailer are actually like, they could totally be from different houses and we'd never know. But because using them like that, it gives it that sort of uncanny feeling, that weird vibe. Same with like the Tetanus Alley area and in Jenna's route and stuff. It's like, for all I know, those are two pictures taken in two different towns. But that juxtaposition of elements gives it that unsettling feeling where things like are just subconsciously not quite adding up.
It goes along with the idea of like whenever you try to place Echo in the United States, people will point out that like there is a town called Echo. I think it's in Utah, and it's partly based on that, but it's also based on these other places. And if you interrogate the actual route numbers we're discussing, it doesn't like line up with.
It's in like New Mexico. It would have to be in like New Mexico or like Arizona or something.
Yeah, like none of the elements quite match. It's Silent Hill. it's
Silent Hill, exactly.
It's every town in America 40
minutes southwest of Portland.
Yeah. It's Silent Hill, or it's Raccoon City, or it's Springfield.
Yep, just
like
anywhere.
Ambiguously American towns. That's where it's actively hard to even place what state they're in.
Yeah. All right. You suck so much ass.
You would know. Hey, your ass is the only ass I. Dev grunts in a heavy, bearish way. What are you saying about him? As Cameron wraps his arms around his neck and lifts his feet off the ground, forcing Dev to bridle carry him. There's something funny about how like, oh, you thought Echo was a slow burn? People like question whether or not it's actually a horror game. Arches goes 0 to horror as fast as possible, and it's gayer.
And it's gayer. Devin eats ass. Oh man. It's stupid. This is dumb. They just really need to dial it up. We got those sweet toe pics almost immediately. Gotta see them feetsies.
Yeah. Arches feet wiki entry. Chuckling.
And then we got the death bulge. Gratuitous bulge shot that also has someone dying in the foreground or the background.
They're only pretend dying though. In a pretend
only
story.
Pretend. It doesn't count. The bulge is okay in that shot because they weren't really dying.
The ethics of bulge. In this 20 tweet discourse thread, I will. Chuckling, Dev carefully makes his way through the rough terrain while the coyote awkwardly keeps his feet lifted high so they don't brush the sage. Gotta grab that sage for the ghosts.
Yeah, burn it all down. Light a fire. Smudge the whole town.
Fuck this.
Yeah.
Just walking in
You know
here.
This is I don't know why, but whenever I see a setting that looks like this, actually, this looks very similar. Oh fuck, this is something I can't talk about. Never mind. Ignore what I was about to say. It reminds me of what Viridian Forest in Pokemon. There we go. Pretend that's what I was about to say.
Wow. Dev finally lowers the coyote near the edge of the forest, and they stand there, looking into the blackness. Cameron can only see the branches outlined against the moonlight, but otherwise it's almost like looking into a void. The feeling of emptiness is emphasized by the suddenly quiet desert around them. So, I've got like one bar. Data isn't working.
You know, trees should make it harder to get a signal. Can you make a call?
Well, I can't open my insurance app, so I don't know what the preferred towing companies are. And I'm just sort of realizing that most probably wouldn't come out here anyway, since Flake Road doesn't technically exist anymore.
Flake Road?
Yeah, it was the one that was flaking. Something like that.
I'm sure it's not that. So we're not getting towed out, and you don't even know the name of the road we crashed on. Are you saying we're stuck here? Like, really stuck?
Listen, I said we should go to the freeway.
You know, if this was post-COVID pandemic times, this would not be a problem because they'd have their 5G nanomachine vaccines.
Yeah, exactly.
This couldn't happen in 2023.
It'll be chipped like house pets.
Yep.
Well,
is that what the COVID vaccine is in the Echo universe? Is they all get microchipped? oh boy.
It would really recontextualize any kind of like microchip conspiracy.
Just disclaimer, this was a joke. Get your vaccine. If you don't have your vaccine yet, what the fuck? It's not even hard anymore. Just walk into a CVS, get it done.
I did it like a week ago. Mainly because at the last possible we had the vaccine. We had the vaccine back in the first year, but Stephanie and I procrastinated on buying tickets to Las Vegas FurCon. We had just taken care of like the hotel and stuff, but didn't actually register because there's no way they're going to run out or anything. But Stephanie looked at it like a few days before, or like a week before we had to go, and realized, oh, we need to have like an updated vaccine. so we both kind of panicked and went to a CVS to get booster shots. But then when I was in there, they didn't really check. Like I had my app with my like QR code and everything, and I'm like, this isn't updating to show like my newest booster shot. Like it's not in here yet or something. And I was like really worried I was about to be in trouble, but they didn't actually pay any attention.
Yeah, they were too busy really to check. They just like kind of waved you into the con.
Yeah. I very much enjoy somebody enjoy drawing that. It's my gift to you. It's the conspiracy theorist like Labrador that's very paranoid about like being chipped and like because of the characterization it just works. It's like a BoJack character. Well, my Jeep probably is. Not us. The highway is still within walking distance, remember?
I'm such an idiot. Can't believe I got us in this mess.
Hey, I don't give a shit about my Jeep. Besides, I just got an idea. Dev taps on his phone a few times, then pulls it up to his ear, but only for a few seconds before he scowls.
What?
Call dropped, but it rang for a sec.
We're so dead. I've killed us.
Oh, stop it, honey. I'll try texting.
Who are you texting?
An old friend of ours.
Who?
Damn it, I swear the bar keeps disappearing every time I try to send. I'll try to send different angles. Or I'll try some different angles. I feel like
a tree dude, you're a bear.
Yeah, but I feel like you can like try to send a text message and it'll like kind of just eventually get out. Like I don't think you need to keep trying for a lot of the time. I don't know. Yeah. Phones are weird. I keep getting
next method.
Yeah, I keep getting text messages like 6 hours after people send them to me, and they're dated correctly. So I'm just like, oh, cool.
Oh
This
yeah,
would
that
have
happened at Las Vegas FurCon when we went to the restaurant, and I had texted you like, I'm in the parking lot, and then as we were leaving after eating breakfast together, you were like, I just got your text. What do you
yeah.
mean?
No, it's happened multiple times where Stephanie's like, oh yeah, do you want to record today? And then like after we record multiple episodes, because she just walked in my room, I then get a message saying from her saying that she's free today, like after or I missed out on watching the D&D movie because my housemates texted me about it asking if I wanted to go, and I didn't receive it until like an hour after the movie started.
Oh man, that's a bummer. That was a fun movie.
Yep, nope. Phones are betraying me. Technology's getting worse. It's somehow Elon Musk's fault. Probably. I'll just rest on that.
Time to just swear off all technology and become even more of a hermit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love being instantly accessible to everyone all the time anyway. There are downsides to that, like people expecting a response all the time. Like with my job, I have a specific job where I can't just interrupt what I'm doing constantly to respond to every message the way that that's just kind of like hanging out in an office is more likely to do. So but because of modern expectations, people like constantly expect an immediate reaction and will get like really annoyed really quickly, like I'm ignoring them. And for me, it's like, oh fuck, I record an hour of something, and then I like, fuck, here's 6 messages to go through. Gotta do my human duty of being instantly accessible all the time. There's like upsides and downsides, obviously, but like holy shit, it's exhausting to have the expectation of access.
No, you end up with a queue of friendship interactions you need to have every single time you're done doing something.
Like it's bad enough with just text messages, but then you have like Twitter and Discord DMs stacked up, and you're like, how many of these do I go through right now? Then you have to like think up responses. Like, haha, I'm interacting. Hee hee. I'm bad at it. I'm just bad at it in general. Devin is hunched over his phone, tapping away. Cameron just sighs, letting Dev do whatever it is he's doing. Despite the bear's attempts to placate him, the coyote knows that they both know that this is his fault.
Why don't you just tell me what a stupid, idiot piece of shit I am?
Cameron doesn't want to admit it, even in his mind, but one thing he liked about Dylan was that he didn't sugarcoat things for the coyote. Yeah, but he did beat you, so...
Dylan?
Yeah, Dylan's the person that gave him the scar.
Oh, okay. I got really confused for a second. I was like, did they accidentally type Devin's name wrong?
No. Dylan is the ex that was more honest, apparently, but also was awful in other ways.
That's one way to justify abuse. It's honest. Fuck that.
It's a hell of a...
so traumatized.
Yeah, it's a hell of a thing to think. It's like... It's not necessarily dishonest of Devin to just avoid calling Cameron out constantly especially when they clearly are both aware of what's up, but he's just, being nicer about things or whatever. Like, that's just, a lot of people just behave that way because it's just a nicer way to interact. And it incredibly wears you down when somebody does call you out every single time about something.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like, I think I joke about this a lot, but one of the greatest like social charisma superpowers that someone can use to not only have better relationships with people, but also like navigate difficult social interactions with, is to just shut the fuck up. Like you don't need to nitpick everything that people do.
So many times you don't have to say something.
Exactly. And like, if someone's being dumb, even if it's grating to you, even if they're wrong and like cosmically incorrect, like this isn't saying don't face injustice or don't correct people when they need to be corrected. But like, sure, you're in this horrible situation. Cameron crashes your car. Everyone understands that he crashes your car you don't really need to fixate on how he crashed your car. You're in the situation. You're living it right now. Talking about it does not solve the problem. And all it does is make someone feel bad. So just like, shut the fuck up. Like, who cares? Like, we now need to deal with this situation. You do not need to litigate it anymore. So I do actually respect that aspect of Devin's character, at least in the way that he's being portrayed and personified, right? Because like, he'll talk about stuff and he has he clearly is willing to try to communicate with Cameron, but also he has that grace, whether intentionally or otherwise, to just like not talk just for the sake of talking, which I think is like something that a lot of, especially, and I think this is like a structural furry visual novel thing, but especially a lot of furry visual novel protagonists could learn from is like, yeah, sometimes you like don't need to yap about stuff all the time. You can kind of let people kind of sit with themselves and understand and work through their stuff on their own and let the realizations come to them, which obviously it's setting up with Cameron that he is a little bit self-abusive here too. It was not just his ex that was abusive. He's hateful to himself.
And it's rough because he's like, he's somehow pining after an element of Dylan's behavior, even though Dylan's behavior is why he flinches every time Devin like looks at him funny, basically.
Yeah.
And like, he's simultaneously thankful for Devin for being a caretaker, but also is like pissed at him for babying him. And it's like, but like you are a piece of work. Like, there is a lot to deal with here, and anyone has the patience to deal with it. Like, they're going to be tiptoeing things around because it's there's like a specific kind of like to get into it a little bit. An element of furry Twitter sometimes is getting the just instant thoughts that like there's certain people on furry Twitter that just kind of spew every thought directly to Twitter constantly, and you will see like they're very emotional and very volatile, but also self-contradictory and like self-defeating in their own things, and they'll make declarations about how people should treat them and how they want to be seen, but they'll also be in direct contradiction with the other elements because they're just like, because it's just raw emotion, it's not inherently like structured or coherent overall, and it has this similar pattern that Cameron has where he blames the wrong things for what's happening essentially, and is unfair in how he treats other people because he simultaneously wants people to understand what he's going through and properly and respect that and work with that, but also not to baby him and not to to in any way like he hates anything that reminds him that other people know what he's going through, even though he specifically wants to be understood. Like that doesn't work. You can't have both of those.
Well, and it's interesting too that you bring that up because he clearly wants people. He's like, these are my circumstances, and let's frame this a little bit. Like, he is undeniably a victim of abuse and neglect, but he also is in that abusive cycle where he's like enabling future abuse because he is also self-abusive. And he, for example, you say like he craves this part of Dylan that he sees as good because it was hurting a part of himself that he viewed as bad. But he also acknowledges that like the reason why he's not with Dylan anymore is partially because he was abusive and bad to him. And so that's contradictory. But then there's also the fact that Cameron wants people to understand him and wants people to know his background. But we learned literally, an hour ago in the story that Cameron doesn't talk about any of these issues. He knows Devin doesn't know how he got the scar. He lied about it. He never told Devin about the circumstances of his mom's death. And like, so he's there's an element of this of like
what, like 3 or 5 years or something?
At least 5 years, I think. Yeah, I think it was 5 years. He says 5 years ago at the motel, I think. But it's just kind of messed up because you have this character who's saying like, oh, like, listen, like, I am a victim and I've been abused, and like there are reasons why my life is a wreck, and like I don't want you to play into my mental illness. Like, I'm on the road to recovery. And he seems to have a grasp of how he's supposed to interact with the world. But then at the same time, he's like so self-flagellating on the inside that he's like craving abuse from others and deliberately putting himself into situations where people aren't going to understand him and will inflict pain on him because he secretly, or maybe subconsciously is a better way to phrase it, like wants that pain to punish himself. And like that's really grim. That's pretty fucked up for him to go through. And I feel bad for him, but at the same time, like it's doing an interesting thing where it is setting up Cameron as a much more self-driven antagonist towards himself than any of the other elements we've seen in the story so far. Like if you had to immediately right now point out what the problems at hand are and like what Cameron's arc is being set up as, it's like Cameron needs to stop hurting Cameron. Like Devin has, you know, had his issues and he shouldn't have taken Cameron here, but Cameron is doing a lot of like self-harm in allowing a lot of these situations to happen to himself and in not communicating and sharing with people the things that he needs to communicate with them so that he can live the life he tells himself he wants but isn't acting towards.
It's an absolutely wild amount of characterization to already have. We're starting the story still, basically. Also doing a double take here on a side note that like I've gone through the sprites to like make the thumbnail, and there is not like a shadow sprite. So like there's an effect happening here that's like they're able to project the shadow over the sprites without affecting the background, and that's just like some kind of additional like layer of trickery that I haven't seen yet in the other like Echo Project visual novels I've played.
Yeah. That is cool. I wonder if it's just an overlay that they place over the entire sprite screen.
Yeah, like it just has like a mask effect or something.
Yeah.
I know
that is cool. I didn't even notice that till just now.
Oh yeah, like I've seen sprites darken before, like universally. But it's also like there's moments in Echo where I can't quite tell what's happening, where I'm like, is the entire screen just slowly having like a solid black layer slowly become more opaque over it, or like what trick is happening in some of these cases? But this is very specifically an effect that is only projecting on the characters.
That's so cool. I love how much higher the visual fidelity is in this game so far. I think it's really working. It looks great.
He'd tell him he was an idiot, either with words or fists. Okay, Cameron.
Yeah.
Cameron.
Yeah, not good. How honest of Dylan to just abuse his boyfriend. Ugh.
The coyote turns his attention back to the forest, staring into the dark. Dev doesn't know anything about him and Dylan. Cameron sure as hell isn't ever going to tell him. See?
I really like how we have consistently been having conversations about character reads, and then 2 seconds later, the text just very explicitly talks about the thing we were just talking about.
About like he has this entire history with Dylan that he just will not tell Devin about at all.
Well, I mean, I think that means that the economy of information in this game is like very clearly signposting what it wants to talk about. Like it's funny for a game about characters who don't communicate well. The game itself communicates to its audience extremely clearly.
Like it's rough because that means it's just another reason why Dev just doesn't understand like why Cameron's flinching and stuff like that. Like what his reactions mean. Like it's vital information he just doesn't have.
I mean, and it's going to be like kind of dangerous mentally for Devin as well, because if Devin's going to think that Cam is afraid of him specifically, you know, like, why are you flinching from me? Am I the bad? And it's like, no, it's just trauma, man.
Yeah. Whereas like the most violent thing Dev has ever done is say God damn it a few times. Like that's he's just a teddy bear so far. So it's like there's a genuine question of like, what is he doing to earn these reactions? Because he has nothing to work with. Especially that sometimes he was the one to swing first. He always lost, but the few hits he'd land always felt worth it.
That would be a real treat for you, Dev. Not only is your boyfriend crazy, he's violent too. Does he even know you at all?
A chill goes up Cameron's spine. That didn't feel like his own thoughts, even though it came from inside his head. Cameron moves closer to Devin, rubbing his arms. Oh, just send, damn it.
Devin.
Just a sec, hun. A few already went through. I just gotta confirm some things with them. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
The void seems to get bigger, and even though he wants to look away, Cameron can't. He knows he's sensing again, even though he isn't meaning to.
Here we are. I don't know what it was. That's what really bothers me about it. I think I could handle something like a ghost, but not something like that. So, it was just me and my wife taking a walk through the old forest like we always did. And then, I don't know. I just got this weird feeling and everything went real quiet. Then this voice started. Man's voice. But it was kind of eerie, like it wasn't real. Hard to explain, but it was like it was an electronic thing. A machine. It started yelling at us in this sort of playful way, like it was making fun of us or taunting us. Said things like, "The devil walks beside you," and "I'm taking you to hell." Weird crap like that. It was coming from the tops of the trees, and you could kind of hear it go up and down and come closer like it was swinging through the branches. And yeah, it scared us because it didn't make sense. The voice, where it was coming from, what it was saying, none of it made sense, and that's the scary part. So we ran, and then it said some nasty things about my wife, so I picked her up and ran as fast as I could. Later, she told me she saw it over my shoulder, in the trees. I had a hard time explaining it, which I understand because I can't explain it at all, but she said it was a shadow. A shadow person that was moving through the branches. She said light bent in a weird way around its body, like it was encased in a glass globe or something. She hasn't said much else about it. She doesn't like talking about it, and neither do I. I'm only telling you because I feel like there needs to be a record of it somewhere. It feels wrong to go out of this life without, I don't know, letting people know that unexplainable stuff happens to a lot of people. And I hope we figure out why. And this might not be important, but I had dreams afterwards where I'd be in that forest and this shadow creature would come crawling out into the open. And then sounds would come from where its mouth would be. I'd hear a young man screaming for help, all distorted like it was recorded on tape. And then there'd be this high-pitched laughter. Shit!
Ah,
Did you hear that?
that laugh? Yeah, it sounded like a drunk dude kind of far away. You screaming is what made me scream.
It was like a cackle, like a cartoon witch or something. It was right next to us. I heard it before.
Well, I wouldn't say it was like a witch. It was kind of high-pitched, I guess, but again, it was pretty distant.
I think we should go.
Why? I think it's just like a drunk hick or something. I'm almost done messaging Artie. Something bangs like a screen door swinging closed, and not very far away.
Who is this?
It
My guess is...
It might be Brian, because they're talking to Duke.
Yeah.
But has Brian ever used a gun?
Brian's never used a gun, I don't think, and he is subservient to Duke. Wait a second. Is Duke alive still?
That is another question, yeah.
Huh.
It suggests that Duke is alive, which... I mean, he's not even in some of the timelines, and I don't know if any of the timelines will match up anyway, so...
Yeah. Huh.
You have no idea who this is. Who's that squealing? That you, Duke? Got me a 12 gauge right here that'll make you squeal twice as loud if you're snooping around my property again. Dev's voice drops down to a whisper. Holy shit. Then, before Cam can fully absorb exactly what's happening, Dev is pulling him along again, running full tilt through the sagebrush, toward the road, and back towards Lake Emma. Someone's still out here. Someone doesn't like Duke. Hey, who's pissed at Duke? We don't really have a sense of. We don't really have a sense of who he'd interacted with or who would think what about him necessarily. Well, Micah hates him, and Leo hates him, and everyone in the main party would hate him. But I have no reason to think any...
I don't think they're in... I don't think that was Tetanus Alley, so it's not Misha or Micah's place. It's not... I don't think it's Leo, because Leo lives near the train yard. I guess actually...
And Leo should hopefully be gone by now if he followed what he was claiming he would be doing.
Yeah, but also, Leo does live near the woods. So, maybe that was Leo?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm going to be very disappointed if Leo shows up in this game. That guy has got to get his priorities straight. He's got to move out of this town.
It's just Kudzu.
Oh, well, I mean, if that's cool, hey, he knows how to use a gun now. Good for him.
Yay! Or he
got a bigger gun because it
didn't
work on Brian the first time.
Yeah. I had the thought for a second, I'm like, maybe if it's Leo, like maybe he upgraded to a new gun. But also, I don't think... What was the dialect like? Who's that squealing?
Yeah, it doesn't sound like Leo.
None of these characters talked like this, really.
Got me a 12 gauge right here.
Make you squeal twice as loud if you're snooping around my property again.
Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't sound like Leo. I wonder who it is.
We don't even have a
screen door.
We actually have zero description of this voice of any kind, too.
Yeah.
So, like, we don't even know if it's like the owner of the diner or some shit.
Yeah.
Like, we actually have nothing to go on. But they have a shotgun. Well, we're just gonna leave. That's a problem for anyone else later. Devin's feet ache from the plethora of rocks he's trampled on. The tough pads on the underside's feeling almost torn up by the rough terrain. He's thankful, though, if only for the fact that he hadn't run himself and Cameron into a cactus.
Dev.
Cameron's voice jerks with every running step. We're almost there. Dev huffs and puffs for air, now aware that he's a bit more out of shape than he realized. He hadn't run in earnest for at least a few years.
Dev, we're out of the town.
The bear slows down now that his stuck Jeep is in sight, and he finally lets go of Cameron's paw before doubling over to rest his paws on his knees, wheezing. Fuck. Give me a minute.
Jesus, are you okay? It sounds like you're dying.
Me after one round of DDR.
Dev.
My fucking thigh is cramping like a motherfucker. Holy shit. That one impact noise they've used in every single one.
Yep.
Dev's large rear hits the ground with a thump as he reaches down to massage the back of his thigh.
Oh, thank God.
For what?
Lay on your back.
Before Devin can even follow his directions, Cameron takes the bear's right leg and slowly lifts it up, making Dev spasm as the cramping muscle is slowly stretched out. Oh, fuck. This is what I get for not running since, like, college. Cam gently rocks the leg back and forth.
You've ran since then. Remember that stupid company triathlon thing we did when you carried me on your back and ran across a soccer field?
Despite the light conversation, Dev sees Cam looking over his shoulder toward the town, like he's waiting for a mob of hillbillies to come raging up the road.
Man, I told you, Dev. The people here are psycho.
Dev grunts as Cameron stretches his leg back again. I think he wasn't being serious, but yeah, you were right. All the more reason to get the fuck out of here. Dev finally pulls his foot back, gingerly getting to his feet while continuing to rub at his thigh. So now we know it's a male voice.
Yep.
Ugh. Never had a cramp so painful. Guess I'm getting old.
Probably dehydrated.
Yeah, in the desert all day.
Exactly. They've just been walking around all day. Take it easy next time. You were more scared than I was. You said yourself he was just a drunk hick. Dude, do not gaslight Devin like this, dude.
You
That's
lost your
fucked.
shit a second ago. You forgot the part where he's got a shotgun.
Yeah, I'd be more surprised if he didn't have one. You think he's going to come looking for us? We're not hard to find out here.
You are far away.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty far.
You kind of hard to find out here. He doesn't, like, he never saw you, doesn't know what direction you went in, and they were probably just going, I got off my porch, yelling. People, I don't
And
think
if he
people
thinks
are in
it's Duke, he's going to go the opposite way into town to find him.
Yeah, I don't think people are in a hurry to go, like, hunting around town in the middle of night. They're just, like, you just yell to get someone to go away. This is the town where previously, after, like, Clint attacked, Leo was like, oh, we'll just hang out in my bedroom. Everything's fine. We'll go to bed. Nighty-night, Chase. They'll never find us here in my home. Sounded like you thought you were some other hick. I think we're fine.
I suppose you can put trailer trash in the same category as hick, so that makes sense.
You're so condescending. Like they're
unbelievable.
They're leaning so heavy
character
on this language. We can keep an eye out for right now, though, just in case.
Who did you say you were texting again?
Artie from college. He just happened to be up and he's still living in Mesa. Black Mesa. Said he'd drive out right away, so he could be here in like 3 hours.
Huh. Why Artie, though?
I don't know. He was at the top of my contacts list, and I knew he still lived in the state, so I gave it a shot.
He can give us a ride at least, I guess.
He's got one of those, like, massive trucks, so he might be able to pull us out. His last message said he'd be here in 3 hours or less.
Well, I guess that's not bad. As long as we're out of here by morning. I don't want you getting caught out in the heat all day.
We got a shit ton of water, and if I need to cool down... Devin waves his paw at the lake. Cameron stares at the lake, seeming to think, then looks back at Dev.
Listen, while we were in the forest... I don't know. I didn't see anything, but I think I did some light touch sensing the right way.
Dev's upbeat mood disappears in an instant. What? Why would you do that?
Well, it kind of just happened, and I made sure to not interact or anything. It was just fine, at least for the most part. What I heard was creepy.
Okay, well, now I'm gonna tell you to be careful again, because I don't want a repeat of what happened in the motel.
Well, like I said, I couldn't exactly help it. Anyway, do you know about a shadow person in the forest that spoke with a distorted electronic voice?
Devin is caught off guard. He knows Cameron's trying to take the focus off the fact that he's still messing around with with the supernatural in a dangerously supernatural place. But he also knows exactly what Cameron is referring to. The chapter in Haunted Echo titled Entities of Static described exactly that, and in the thick of trying to figure out whom to call, he hadn't realized that was the forest. Dev's surprise must be pretty obvious as Cameron grins.
In my head, that was italics for some reason. No way. Am I right?
Cameron's sudden joyous reaction surprises the bear. Well, yeah, you're right.
Can you believe this? Sorry, I don't know why I'm so happy. It's just, there's a fucking reason for me being the way I am. No, he's falling into the trap that we just talked about. I can't deny it anymore. It's hard to explain, but that kind of changes my entire life.
Cam's bottom lip trembles with emotion, and Dev shakes off his feelings of unease, drawing him into a hug. Come here. I know what you mean, baby. Well, I don't personally know, but I've wanted you to feel that way for a long time. I'm really happy for you.
I feel like I can do something. I don't know, maybe even help people with this?
Cameron's voice is muffled against Dev's chest. Oh, sure. Of course. Let's find a better place than here, okay? Dev nuzzles Cameron reassuringly, but the coyote doesn't answer. And even though that bothers the bear, he doesn't press the issue, just wanting Cameron to feel happy for now.
I'm gonna predict that Chase is the person who wrote Haunted Echo.
Maybe. Some kind of record, at least.